embedded networks. Now, this is something that is just coming onto the agenda for agents to be talking about. It's been around for a little while, but certainly with the new residential tenancy legislation that also kicked on the 23rd of March this year, when the world went crazy on a whole range of levels, there is in the standard form residential tenancy agreement, so the standard lease that was part of the new regulations. There are questions in there, mostly, and it's now, I think it was bottom of page 2 or somewhere in, the second, third page, where in that residential tenancy agreement, you as an agent, when you are completing that, there is information you actually need to put into that agency agreement. Yes, there's a whole lot of new information about smoke alarms, and we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. In terms of the embedded networks for gas or electricity. Now, for those of you who don't know what an embedded network is, and don't feel bad because, a year ago, I'd never heard of them. It's a contract between an owners corporation and an energy retailer to supply power to all of the properties in that development. So it's electricity or gas. Okay, so it's between the owners corporation, which meaning that they're common in real high density apartments. So the bigger the strata complex, the more likely it is to be there. They're also in residential land lease communities, residential villages. So and some of your community associations are going to go down that path as well. So before actually, as part of completing the residential tenancy agreement, you as the agent need to disclose, so you're doing that on behalf of the landlord, if there is an embedded network. So if the owners corporation for that complex has entered into an agreement that is the only place you can get your gas or electricity service from. Obviously, tenants have or owners, occupiers of lots in these complexes, they have the right to choose their own retailer. We all have that right. However, whilst we have the right, it may be quite difficult for a lot occupier to actually find a retailer with an energy offer that is available to the embedded network customers. So, to come in and actually work around that embedded network that's there from another supplier could actually, and changing to a cheaper provider might actually be very, very complicated, and the connection of all of that may be so cost prohibitive that you wouldn't go down that path. So in other words, you need to know what an embedded network is, particularly when your tenants turn around and start asking that, when your landlords start asking that. If you are selling a property that has a strata complex or a residential village or land lease communities that has an embedded network. So both you guys in sales and in property management need to understand what embedded networks are and if the property you are leasing or selling actually has one. Particularly from obviously the leasing perspective. You need to, at the time of filling in that residential tenancy agreement, you need to be ticking the questions about whether it has an embedded network for electricity, whether it has an embedded network for gas. And because there is often very little flexibility for the lot occupier to change suppliers on that level. Usually, in a residential complex, customers will be offered an energy contract from the owners corporation directly or from the authorised retailer that the embedded network is provided through and offering them exclusively into the embedded network. Now, as I said, very difficult often to choose outside of that because of how the embedded network would have been set up by the chosen provider. Obviously, the owners of the embedded network, usually the owners corporations, can't actually impose any measures that could discourage tenants who would like to change retailers or access competitive offers. But as I've said a couple of times now, it can be quite difficult or expensive for you to get another provider in there and work around the existence of an embedded network. But guys, you definitely need to read about it. There's more information about embedded networks on the Fair Trading website and what that means to tenants. Obviously, it's from a tenant perspective that Fair Trading have got it on their website, but a good place to go and read some more about it. But certainly, knowing that it exists and knowing what it is a really good place to start.